Can you hear me now, Councilor Joe?
Yes, I can hear you now.
And you can hear me also, since I remembered to turn on my microphone.
Yes.
Okay, so as I said, the counselors in front of you are all here, and Counselor Job is with us remotely, so thank you. Counselors, you have the meeting minutes from January 9th. Do they meet with your approval? I have a motion by Cora, second by Martin Willis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carried. Counselor Job, is that yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Just don't let me forget you there. Thank you. Okay, public comment, Mr. Klein. Just to remind everybody that public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and council is just listening. We're not reacting or anything. We're just listening for 3 minutes, and we'll go from there. Mr. Klein, good evening.
Mayor, members of council, thank you. So I've got some written comments, and I'll share those with your staff after I'm done with those, so that hopefully I'll stay within your 3 minutes. So I'm here to speak to an issue on your agenda, the proposed Cherry Stem annexation at 6525 Corvallis Road. I do not oppose the proposal, but I want to speak to an aspect of it that will have direct and indirect impact, and I hope benefit to those of us that reside in the southeastern portion of the city, east of the railroad tracks. Why call it a cherry stem? Simply because to achieve contiguity, the railroad track serves as the connection to the existing city limits, a requirement of annexation. It also serves to highlight the point that I wish to make. But for the railroad tracks in Corvallis Road, there is no reasonable connectivity from the proposed development to the city, to the balance of the city, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists. But as I said, this is an opportunity for benefit. For many years, the city identified the Willamette River Trail in its master plan system, quote unquote, perhaps its most important public space. The park's master plan went on to say the community survey identified access to the Willamette River as its highest grant priority. For years, the city has worked to meet that demand, and as a result, from the Civic Center northward, there are amazing public facilities for river access. Missing is the rest of the system going south. Fortunately, the city staff was able to secure grant funding for further planning efforts, but so far there's little to show for this. In the meantime, the city will be providing funding for construction of Sunset Park, the demolition and removal of swimming pool facilities, and provided funding for Pioneer Park and Inspiration Gardens, all worthy efforts that serve those parts of the community well. Missing are any public parks, trails, or even connected walks for those of us that live in the southeast part of the city. What I'm asking today is that the council, regardless of its ultimate decision on the annexation, raise the priority of completing the Willamette River Trail. Indeed, should the annexation proceed, the result will be even more families without a safe walk to or bike to town. There is no continuous connection today for my neighbors and myself, and the result will be even more unfortunate for those coming to the new developments in the future. Completion of the proposed Willamette River Trail will make Independence yet again a leader in the state for visionary use of its assets and create wonderful walks and recreation for all its residents, not just those that are underserved in our part of the city. As an aside, I'm quite familiar with what the perceived barriers, financial and otherwise, are, and to this effort might be, and would offer my assistance in helping to address those if wanted. You have resources, in my opinion, to make it happen, and I've always had the spirit.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing that with Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Jasper Smith. Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I also wanted to echo support for continuing the Willamette River Trail. I think it's been a priority in our parks plan since 2015, and I would like to see it prioritize. These types of investments in our community have incalculable benefits to the mental health, physical health, and environmental health of our communities, and we need to be building the infrastructure of well-being for our communities, because if we're going to make any progress in solving those larger problems, we can't do it one person at a time. We have to actually build the infrastructure and community base to do that. And we don't really have, I think at the very least, we need to continue to the bridge and make that connectivity. There isn't really safe walking, biking from here south. And I think the best way to do it is to continue what's in the plan and make sure that happens for our community.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come in. Okay, I'm gonna move forward. Under my mayor report, you have a committee appointment to our budget committee, and does that meet with your approval? Was that a nod? Yes, you have to press the button.
Press the button, there we go. Yeah, move to approve Alex Paraskevas to the budget committee.
Second.
A motion second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Counselor. And no opposition, motion carries. Thank you very much. Under my report, just a couple of things to keep you informed. I want to take a moment from the chair to thank, and I know Mr. Fisher's on, I want to publicly thank both our police department and our public works folks for service during snow and ice. And, you know, there is something warm and friendly and says a lot about our community when you see people out working, doing, you know, I see scrapers going by, I see sanding trucks sanding, I know the work that's being done. I know that there's the official stuff, then there's also kind folks that are helping people who are jammed up. They're stuck and somebody needs a push. It's just an attitude, and I just want to publicly say from my spot here, I want to thank the public works folks, the police department, and I also want to call out that I know that our communications director, Emmanuel, was engaged in making sure that people knew what was going on, and also Jason Kistler, who is our IT director, made sure that everything worked, but he was also the manager on the ground, dealing with making sure the communications and all the stuff that needed to get done got done. And so that may not be overly eloquent today, but the feeling is sincere. So I want to thank all the people who helped make good things happen. Also had the pleasure to attend the Youth Art Show over at the museum. That's a nice event that continues to grow, and it was very interesting. I also want to draw council's attention to the COG Awards, the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments Awards banquet that takes place on Wednesday, February 28th, hosted by the Confederate Tribes at Spirit Mountain. Please work with Karen to make sure you get registered. We'd love to have you there. It's a good event. So with that, that's enough of me speaking for a moment. Let's go to council liaison reports. And Councilor Schwartzler, I think you have both Minot and Parks and Recreation today.
Yes, thank you. So updates on Minot, positive things to report. They are wrapping up an audit and they received a successful audit. They are recruiting for a finance director. They do have a consultant in place through the recruitment and transition phase, and we should have some updates on that at tomorrow night's meeting. And also good news on the financial front. They ended the year, their financial fiscal year, operating income ended well and on budget, and operating expenses were better than expected. So they are generating cash and are profitable, which is always good news to hear. Their expansion efforts are going well. They have been expanding to Rick Rial and towards the Dallas direction, and also Kings Valley in Falls City. And those efforts, both with the expansion and then acquiring customers, has been positive. They are rolling out multi-gig service, which is pretty impressive. So that's coming to households and also businesses in the area. They are making a big push for people to go paperless. That helps them with their operating expenses pretty significantly. And they have added digital signage to the trolleys as well as the Wi-Fi that they are providing. So that's a great public amenity for us to have. And they are on track with their debt service payments and have been making payments, and then they are on track for positive payments this following year, or this coming year.
Great, thank you. And do you have anything for Parks and
I
Rec?
do have for parks. So unfortunately, about 50% of the meetings have been canceled. They've been having some quorum issues, and then also with some holiday conflicts. So we're hoping that, I know they had a new member appointed, and so hopefully that will help meet quorum. There are 4 main items that they have been discussing, some which we are already familiar with. The sports park feasibility got presented. Sunset Meadows has been officially named, and council did approve that recently. And then they've been keeping track of the pool house demolition. And they are currently discussing park rules. So they're reviewing the existing park rules and discussing maybe some potential additions to that. And then additional items, there was a request for additional signage for pedestrians to have some better wayfinding towards Inspiration Gardens, specifically the southern end of the garden.
Thank you, Counselor, appreciate it. Counselor Job, I think you have Independence Days.
Yes, thank you. We had our first planning meeting for the 2024 celebration. Just kind of going over ideas, talking about what happened last year, and working on creating the plan. We did get 80 fence panels donated, and we acquired 150 barricades for the parade from Newburgh. So that was all great. We are looking for a community engagement person, as well as a volunteer coordinator. So if anybody knows anyone interested in something like that, they could really use it. And of course, as many volunteers as possible as we get started in planning for the 2024 celebration.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go on to the City Manager Report. Ms. West.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, first on my list is to thank my Public Works and Police Department, but the mayor very kindly did that. So I will just add that we're very blessed to have such dedicated people working for the city. And they were out there doing the hard job in some very difficult conditions. So I'm thankful to have them. On your desk is a draft budget calendar. That is a draft, it's just for your review. We will bring it to you as you see on February 13th for your approval. Between now and then, if you have any questions on that draft, please do send me an email. We'll respond and revise it as needed. One thing I want to note is one of the things that you had asked of us is that we have additional meetings and then we do some training and orientation. You'll see in yellow that the first meeting has been designated as orientation and training. There is the potential for the second meeting to be orientation and training as well. So there are 5 total meetings. I don't know if we'll meet all 5, but they will be scheduled and noticed appropriately. We expect to provide you with the budget at the second meeting. If we do training, we'll get the budget at the end of the meeting. So once again, any questions or suggestions or changes, send me an email, we'll address it, and then you'll see this back to you in its final form in February. So,
Are we gonna get do you know yet if we're gonna get the budget in hard copy or digital?
I don't know the answer to that as yet, Counselor, but let me make a note, and I'll answer that after I talk with our new finance director, which I'm very excited to have. It was not the best experience not having a finance director through budget last year. So, do you have a preference, Counselor?
I prefer digital, but I don't speak for everybody.
Of course. I'll drop me an email, let me know if you prefer digital or hard copy. Okay, I have been with the city for about 1.5 years, so this is actually my first full calendar year. And one of the things I really like to do is to do an annual look back at our favorite projects for the year. And I tapped all of my staff to ask them what were their favorite projects. It's a pretty long list, so hang on as I go through them all. They're all great, and I really want to make sure our community knows the wonderful stuff that our staff have been doing. So I'm going to start with the trolley. Our planner was deeply invested and involved in the trolley, and it is up and running, and we expect to have 100,000 riders in the first year. Pretty impressive, pretty impressive. In planning and land use, we received approval for a new manufacturing facility in our industrial zone, which is a $25 million investment in our community. As I noted, we hired an extraordinarily experienced professional finance director that I'm very, very pleased to have on staff. We moved to actual personnel cost allocations to funds, which allows for the funds that are actually being provided to personnel services to be charged for those services. So as we talked about in budget committee meetings last year, we're moving to best practices throughout the organization. We updated our accounting codes, structures, and processes, which results in better data and more efficient processes in the finance department. We began addressing process improvements in interfund loans and transactions and grants. We rolled out the Wooden Nickel program, which has been a great project to generate and track visitor spending in the community. We were asked to host the Oregon Main Street Conference, and we did it extremely successfully thanks to the great working relationship with IDA, our businesses, the Chamber, the City of Monmouth, and so many other wonderful partners. We won the Mad Max Derby for the Department of Transportation Rural and Tribal Grant, which was a first come, first served grant, very unusual. There were 400 applications, less than 20 were funded, and Independence was the first applicant out of the 400, and therefore we received $320,000 for final design and engineering of the Chestnut Bridge. We completed construction of the early learning cottage in the children's area of the library, and it is absolutely adorable. If you haven't seen it, go take a look. The kids love it. We coordinated with Indie Hub to run the Youth Coding League for 5th through 8th grade students. I know I've talked about it a lot. It's such a great program, and we're continuing that program. We restarted the homebound delivery for our patrons who can't make it to the library. We've updated a number of master plans and capital improvement plans. We implemented an asset management system for our Public Works Department that creates a more efficient workforce, and that's in coordination with IT, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. Completed the F Street Bridge project. We strengthened our relationships with the county, state agencies, and our state and federal delegates. We worked closely together with Polk Fire District, including an IGA, to share communication staff, and continue to work closely with the City of Monmouth. We moved to an e-permitting process, which is required by the state, but it is also supposed to create an easier process for those folks who need to get a permit. Our IT department is almost at the recommended 2018 staffing levels. IT completed the digitalization project for a fully digital work environment for Public Works, which ensures that Public Works is seamlessly connected in the field to improve efficiencies and enhance accuracy. Phase 2 of the Event Center Access Control Project is finished, which replaced the decades-old system and enhanced our security and reduced staff time requirements. IT, in conjunction with the police department, deployed additional assets in parks and downtown core, resulting in a 92% reduction in vandalism and facilitating arrests in more serious crimes. IT completed a critical infrastructure threat assessment that identified potential sources of harm to city facilities, assessed the likelihood and severity of those threats, and developed strategies to mitigate or manage the risks. So think about situations like someone trying to poison our water system. How do we address that, and how do we make sure it doesn't happen? We hosted 6 exhibits from the Oregon Historical Society and the National Library of Medicine in our museum. We had 18 school groups that visit our museum this year, and we've had 6,535 visitors in just 1 year. We made huge strides in digitizing documents and photographs at the museum, thanks to staff and volunteers alike, and we had over 3,000 volunteer hours this last year. Our police department is finally fully staffed at the 2018 levels. We're still not at 2023 or 2024, but we're getting there very slowly. And that was a joint effort between HR and PD, where we were able to bring on some full-time officers as well as a full-time community service officer this year. We have a new website that is more user-friendly, more cost-effective, and can be immediately updated as needed to keep our community informed. We launched the Curator's Corner video series and the Meet Your City Staff video series, all of which have been received by our community very, very well. We can tell because our communications director can see how many shares and how many views. We increased and strengthened media relations with the Statesman Journal, and we now have a great working relationship with the Itemizer Observer reporters and staff. We created an empowered and engaged team. We work together well, and we're happy. We're understaffed, but we're all working at a very efficient and effective level, and we're getting great work done for the community. We've had a good year, and we've done a lot of great things. One thing came in, I was going to end with that, but something came in today that I want to share. We received a notification from Business Oregon, a conditional award for Special Public Works Fund wastewater treatment improvement project, and that's $1 million. 500,000 grant and 500,000 loan with 0% interest. And it's not just $1 million, because that $1 million is a match to a much larger grant. And if you look at the itemized reserve tomorrow, you'll see a notice in the legal notices that tells you a little bit about that grant. I can't tell you about that grant because of the parameters of the grant, but do take a look at the itemized reserve tomorrow. And then after that, I can tell you all kinds of stuff. So this is a pretty amazing thing that our staff did to get a grant to match another grant, to create multi-million dollars worth of funding for our wastewater facility. So I'm pretty excited by it. I'm giving you a little bit of pre-information, and then I'll give you more information when I'm allowed to tell you about the official award. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Ken, I would just say too, that staff was very helpful in, particularly Manuel, in having us get the age-friendly designation from AARP. And I plan on leveraging more support from Emmanuel to go out and find out what our seniors need in our community.
Thank you, Counselor. I forgot that one.
Thank you. Okay. Amanda Christensen, our HR director, is going to do a department report. Good evening.
Good evening. Stealing remote from Karen, maybe? Thank you. So, right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to present on the latest happenings in the HR department. While there are limitations on certain topics I can talk about, I do have a couple that I would like to highlight from the past year. We're going to start with Paid Leave Oregon. Paid Leave Oregon is a state mandated program that started in September of 2023. It is designed to provide paid leave for serious health conditions for you and your family members. The city has successfully implemented an equivalent plan over the past year with a positive feedback from our employees. There was a little bit of grumbling at the beginning because it was a brand new program, but overall they've had a great experience. By using an equivalent plan with a third-party administrator, the city is expected to save approximately $25,000 over the next 2 years in comparison to staying with the state-provided plan. Next on my list is our onboarding. So, onboarding is a crucial step in the employee life cycle that can often be missed. This is an opportunity when we have a brand new employee, we need to get them excited about their position, about the city, and about their job. During the orientation, they're often met with brand new faces, and a lot of brand new faces here around the city, a massive amount of paperwork, and they get overwhelmed very easily. In the past, I would sit down with the brand new employee, and this is actually an example. This is our manual I would hand out to each and every one, and sit down and go through every document in here, every piece of paperwork, and all the fun things. Quite often it was looked at with a blank stare. So I've decided over the last year we wanted to improve that system and that plan. So on your screen is our brand new one-stop shop for our onboarding process. It includes a welcome, up here, well, maybe, so gonna let me take, there we go. It includes a welcome message to all of our brand new employees, along with a one-stop shop for forms and documents that they'll need to fill out in the process. These documents are all fillable, so they can click on them, fill them out, and send them right back to me, so we'll remove as much paper as we can. They also have a one-click to all of our training needs with CIS. On CIS, we get all of our onboarding training, including harassment, ethics, cybersecurity, and that type of thing. Also here is our employee portal. This is going to be updated to the new look of the other that we're working on now for the onboarding, but it provides all of our employees with benefits, accident reporting, personnel forms, and that kind of thing. Also on the onboarding website is our personnel manual and team culture. Okay, so going here to our leadership team, this will allow brand new employees to see different faces. So they met all these different faces in one day. They can go back and actually see who they've met. So here is our leadership team with a message from our city manager. And then we've tried to capture all of our employees in their environment. So instead of being just the straight photos, we've got Jason up in a bucket truck. We've got Mason with the fire department. Gerald, I thought was very appropriate with his vest. Fred and Natasha. So these are all of our directors, and then we of course have Emmanuel at our holiday events. This is one way people can come back and verify who the directors are, that kind of thing, but I'm also wanting to work on getting the other employees on there as well.
Amanda, this is amazing. Do you want to go work for the state, please? Because our onboarding sucks eggs. I mean, this is amazing. Just being able to see the faces of people, because you know you meet 1,000 people on day one.
That's true.
And granted, we're a small staff, but nevertheless, you can't remember any of these people.
That's very true, and that was one reason I wanted to do this. And I will say, we are rolling this out. I've been working on this for almost a year now, but I was like, I just can't just sit down with these people and just give them this box of papers and say, fill them out anymore. So that's why we started this program here. Let's see what else is on there. There's helpful tips and questions that people can go to. The other part is on our onboarding, if I can get their mouse to work. Down here is also, I've got to work on pictures because I guess our team doesn't like to take pictures. We only like to take them at the holidays. So we've got a lot of Halloween pictures, but we're going to work on that next year. So we've got all of our the team members out there and having fun. So kind of get more of these are some more of our employees and getting them to know other employees. So one-stop shop, that's what we're going for, but I'll be there to help them through the whole process. And lastly, it's going to be a video. So this video was created by our amazing communications team, Emmanuel and Ashley. I would like to thank them both for doing such a great job. The video has actually not been seen by anybody but a couple of us. This video is the latest and greatest in Get to Know Your City Staff series. So let's go there, and here, and here.
That's really good.
So that's me in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank
Short
you.
and sweet.
I have a question. How many people do we onboard a year?
The last year's been a lot. It depends, anywhere from 0 to 5. Last year we had multiple police officers, so we probably had 4 or 5. So, but it's a big impact on the people. If we don't start out right, then we're in trouble.
Is your portal accessible from the outside, or is it just internal?
It's an internal portal, but I can probably grant access to certain individuals if they need to.
Maybe you could do screenshots and send me screenshots. I just want to send it to our admin people. No, there's a better way to do this.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, we now have a presentation on the Central Talmadge project, and I have some folks here in the room. Fred, are you going to?
Do you want me to introduce them?
Yes, Mr. Evander, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay.
Provide a nice transition here.
Sounds good. So hi, everybody. My name is Fred Evander. I'm the city planner here. And tonight we have James and Cindy from First 40 Feet. I don't think I could pronounce your last names. So James and Cindy, and they're here to present on the Central Talmadge plan. We have been working with them quite a bit on the project, and we just appreciate their work so far. So they're gonna introduce you folks to the project and also sort of tell you where we've been and where we anticipate going in the future.
Great.
So,
Cool. Welcome to City Council. We're glad you folks are here tonight.
It's good over here. Yeah, thanks for having us. I got a chance to meet a few of you before we came in. Just wanted to do a really very brief introduction, just so you know kind of who we are. First of all, my name is James Brackenoff is my last name. And we are an urban design firm out of Portland. I grew up in Salem, so I come to Independence quite a bit when I was a kid to play in different soccer matches and so forth. Anyway, we basically focus on projects just like these urban design projects, where we involve a lot of community residents, stakeholders. On this project, we're working with ODOT as well, and we're really tasked with coming up with a plan that reflects the aspirations and concerns of the community. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been getting a lot of input over the last few months and been developing a plan. And with that, I'll just pass it on to Cindy, who will give more of an introduction.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Cindy Trevisano. I'm the project manager and urban designer with First 40 Feet. Thank you so much for having us here today. We're excited about the open house turnout that we had today, so thank you for everyone that was able to come by for that. The boards are still in the lobby, so welcome to continue to peruse after the presentation. Can we go to the next slide, please?
And if you just want to point at me, I'll next time.
Sounds good. So for the agenda today, we did a bit of the introduction. We'll give you an overview of where we've been on the project so far and what we've heard from the community in our engagement. We'll talk about a little bit about the project vision and the guiding principles. And the bulk of the presentation will be our preliminary design concepts, and we can open it to discussion. So a little bit of a recap, background on the process of the project. So we're here today, January 23rd. We have the community outreach number 2. So we have had, in October, we did our community outreach number 1, and that was an open house and kind of just an introduction to the project, collecting input and needs, issues, concerns from the community, as well as a number of interviews and community conversations with stakeholders. We have project advisory committee meetings that are shown there with the gray tags that are throughout the project. And our advisory committee has helped us review concepts as we kind of work through them and test them out before bringing them to the public. So they've been a really valuable asset to us. So an outreach overview, as I mentioned, for outreach number 1, we talked to a lot of the community. So here's just kind of an overview spread. We've talked to about 19 people through stakeholder interviews and focus groups. So we tried to keep a wide variety, including owners of commercial properties and residential properties. We've talked to, we've done an online survey, we've talked to students from the school and from the Gate Community Center, and again, the Project Advisory Committee. And then today would be our second community public open house. Next slide, please. So as mentioned for community engagement number 1, we touched on a number of kind of categories of kind of key components of a complete neighborhood. So we talked about mobility and getting here to there, parks and open space, gathering, social, cultural gathering, goods and services, housing, and safety. So we wanted to get an understanding of how people are currently using the district in these terms, and what is missing, and where we can improve. Next, please. So some engagement takeaways from these conversations we've had, kind of broken down by groups here. First, about mobility, Monmouth Street is a big part of many of our conversations. It's the primary route. You can't really avoid it. Even as hard as folks try. We've done some mapping exercises and seen the many different ways that you can move around the district trying to avoid traffic on Monmouth Street. So not only is there the traffic issue there with congestion, but also there are issues, concerns about safety for pedestrians and bicycles. So we've heard that new connections are really essential because we're relying on Monmouth Street a lot, and it's not a great experience all the time. So these new connections, they need to be safe and comfortable, but also an amenity for the neighborhoods and the existing businesses here. About Central Plaza, the commercial shopping center, it's definitely a favorite, highly trafficked spot in the community. But the parking lot poses some safety concerns for pedestrians and cars. We've heard a lot about cut-through traffic, both on foot and by cars, so that's something that we need to address and look at. Goods and services. Visit Central Talmadge area is a great place to run errands and get things done, but we don't have other nice gathering places and places for community. So we hear a lot of folks go to restaurants and kind of to each other's houses, but really there isn't a obvious place to meet and have events and whatnot. Nature is a favorite thing that is mentioned by lots of folks, and spending time outdoors is important, as for many people in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, we have the added challenge of the rainy weather, so outdoor time is important, and we have some lovely assets in the Central Talmadge area with the creek and in proximity to the river. So how can we stay connected to these assets and potentially get a neighborhood park in this area? Lastly, regarding housing, we've heard from the community that housing affordability and a range of housing types are really needed to meet the diverse needs of our community. And that new development should be compatible with the local character as much as possible to really complement our existing neighborhoods and build from what we do have today.
Do the shuffle. So one of the things that we try to do is come up with a project vision, which is as concise and to the point as possible. There's a lot of information we're getting throughout the process, and so insofar as one can do this, we try and synthesize that information. So this is what we came up with. This is the reason why we are pursuing this project, why we think the residents want this project, why the city's pursuing this project. So we wrote that this is to reinforce Central Talmadge as an essential link between Independence and Monmouth, building it into a more vibrant and cohesive hub that complements the two downtowns and builds upon its unique identity as a culturally and economically diverse neighborhood centered around education. I mention the education because the high school and the middle school are kind of the binding element of the neighborhood and of the two towns in general. So we feel that that the high school is something that really is unique about the area and also helps create that hub or create that center for the neighborhood. Just to do that, okay. And then the guiding principles focused on these issues around mobility. We're really focused on I want to make sure we get through this whole presentation, so we talked a lot about these, but in every project that we're going to talk through as quickly as we can, we're going to mention why we're kind of hitting these key principles around improving mobility, creating more gathering spaces, improving access to nature, providing a variety of housing options, and kind of filling the gaps in goods and services that might otherwise be missing in the neighborhood. Okay, next one. So now we're going to walk through a few of the concepts, and I'll pass it back to Cindy.
So looking at the existing condition here, you can go to the next slide, actually. What we've heard in some of these quotes is how much the community really loves living here and how great it is to be and have kind of the benefit of having two downtowns. So here we are in central Talmadge, the kind of pink area. So we come to this district for the schools and commercial activity. This is the center of activity in many ways, and smack dab between the two downtowns. The primary access, as you know, is on Monmouth Street and 16, and it's by car. So to take another access, or to take another way into this district, you pretty much have to go a mile and a half down the way to access another arterial. So we're looking at ways of reconnecting this grid and giving more transportation options that connect in and out of the central Talmadge district. Again, we have the natural areas here as well as assets to connect to and existing single-family neighborhoods.
Do you think a mile and a half is restrictive?
From what we're hearing, it sounds like in order to get where you're going, it becomes really out of direction. A mile and a half for a car is one thing, but for pedestrians and bikes, that's a lot longer of a distance. So,
Hey, keep it rolling here.
Here we go. Okay. All right. We're trying to keep track of time here. So these are the sort of 5 projects that you saw on the boards outside. We're going to talk a little bit about improvements to Monmouth Street, this new East Street connection, East Street Residential Commons, which would be provide a new gathering spot in the center. We've also been looking at Central Plaza and some of the improvements that could happen there, and then a new Ash Creek connector trail, which will improve mobility. So we're going to talk through some of those. So we can go to the next one.
okay, next. Next, please. So on Monmouth Street, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So we start with some existing commercial nodes, and these are where we have destinations already on the corridor and places where people spend time and go for a variety of goods and services. We also have transit stops, the trolley, a beloved feature of Monmouth Street. Next slide, please. Within these nodes, we are looking for ways to enhance the mobility to connect kind of on both sides of Monmouth and create more of a complete node. So we have a few existing crossings and signalized intersections that can be improved in various ways that we'll talk about. Next, please. And there are also opportunities for new crossings at some of these nodes where we don't have crossings in these locations. Next. So looking at an intersection, or one of the mid-block crossings that we have near the school and the gate, some ways to improve this crossing include some pedestrian scale lighting. We've heard that it can be really quite dark here and in the evenings and difficult visibility in many ways. So continental striping that is shown kind of in two of the images on the right would be additional help for visibility, and a pedestrian refuge island would create kind of a safer, again, and more visible crossing option. Next.
How do people pull into Central then if you're blocking the middle lane?
Well, the refuge itself wouldn't need to extend too far to block that driveway, ideally.
Or the gate?
What was that?
The gate as well? I mean,
Right.
I feel like you're telling us a bunch of things we already know about our own community.
So let's keep going.
So we have a sidewalk and a bike lane on Monmouth now, and so we're looking at an option to potentially create a shared use path that is off the street in order to create that separation to make walking and biking feel more safe and separate from traffic on Monmouth. Next. So here's some views of what that could look like in section. The buffered bike lane itself is part of the, was in the TSP in 2021. So that's an option that we want to explore. Next. So our East Street connection runs parallel to Monmouth Street and serves as an alternative route for local travel. This is not, we don't see it as a bypass for Monmouth Street, but as a complementary street that is focused for pedestrian and bike traffic, but also welcomes cars. Next, please. So along East Street, this opens up some opportunity sites that we've looked at. The key opportunity sites are highlighted here, where the new East Street corridor, the new East Street connection could really provide access and open up opportunities to these sites. Next. So we see a few different configurations of East Street working different kind of characters of this roadway throughout. It wouldn't necessarily be one treatment throughout the entire East Street corridor. So we have a multi-use path that is only for pedestrians and bicycles, and portions, low-speed shared roadway where vehicles and cars are sort of the guest, and focusing still on ped bike travel, and a complete street, make sure that we have accommodated all modes of travel in separated lanes. And here's where we might see these different roadway types lay out as you move along the East Street corridor. So we see the complete street in the central area where we looked at those opportunity sites. Next. And here's one of our concepts for the complete street. So we have 2 lanes of traffic that is somewhat narrow to keep traffic moving a little bit slower, on-street parking, and we have on either side bikeway and sidewalk, and that's off-street with furnishing and lighting. Thanks.
All right, keep going here. So along the East Street connection, there's an opportunity, going back to our guiding principles, what we heard from people, they want more gathering spots. We thought that behind the gate in Baptist Church there, this is already informally used for recreation. This could be formalized into a public park and reinforced and made more secure and safe by potential future residential or mixed-use development around the park, so that there would be eyes on the park at all hours and maintain that level of safety. Housing makes a lot of sense here. It's close to the center, close to Monmouth, and that helps reinforce the use of chariots and the trolley. Next, please. Oh yeah, we got another one here. So these are some of the ideas. We were thinking something that's kind of highly flexible and again, I use the word informal so that it can be used for all different types of people, for sports, for yoga, for maybe potentially there's a basketball court. But we heard a lot of people talk about the need for recreation. They love being active here in Independence. And so these are some of the precedents we're looking at for developing that concept. Next. And here's a rendering of what that could look like. And then we'll touch upon the the Ash Creek Trail, which you see running through the park there in a few slides to come. So, next. Oh, and here's some of the, just to give you an idea of the scale of development that we think would work well around the park. So nothing that's proportionally out of scale for the neighborhood, but something that brings that diversity of housing that the area needs. So next. And I will just touch upon, Cindy mentioned E Street. If it were made into a multi-use kind of vehicular, but also pedestrian and bike roadway, it opens up the potential for new housing along there. And so as you move further out, away from, say, Central Plaza, we're thinking of something that's more complementary with the existing neighborhood, something more low in scale like townhouses and duplexes and little courtyard complexes like you're seeing in the images here. Next. This one. So we had a chance to talk to managers at Central Plaza and kind of think through what potential improvements can be made there, because we heard that safety was a concern. A lot of folks kind of crossing through the parking lot at different hours of the day have posed some safety issues. So, yeah, next. Could barely read that. So we were just looking at what are the potential improvements that can be made for pedestrian access. So these red arrows indicate where we think the roadways, the parking lot essentially could be made safer with potentially something like a sidewalk, coming down off of Gun Club Road or off to the side of Central Plaza. But these are very high level concepts at the moment that we're working through. Next. This is an example. On the left, you see the existing roadway or entrance into Central Plaza, and on the right is an example of how there could be a sidewalk added just to improve that safety as you make your way in through the parking lot. Next. Okay.
So Ash Creek Connector is a concept that has already started and is a great asset for us to build upon. Next slide, please. We've heard that, the Ash Creek corridor itself gives us a north and south leg to connect, to potentially create a loop, an Ash Creek loop, and connect to a greater regional trail system. But for this project, we're looking specifically at segments 1 and 2, and 1 is the existing schoolyard trail. That's more or less a wide sidewalk today and some options to improve that. And the Ash Creek Trail connector continues south along the power lines. Next, please. So here's a few photos of some improvements that could happen to the schoolyard trail, including a landscape buffer, wayfinding, signage, additional lighting. And again, the trail connector can continue along the alignment of the power lines. This is something we see throughout the country. Next. So the other benefit of the Ash Creek connector is the ability to connect to existing open gathering spaces, community spaces, and natural assets. So we have a food cart pod and the Commons Park that we have previously discussed. Next. So with the food cart pod, that could potentially be located on Monmouth Street at what is currently Jade Terrace Chinese restaurant, and we've spoken to the owner of that property who actually pitched the idea to us. So she's very enthusiastic about this concept and has even spoken to a number of food cart pod owners or food cart owners. So she sees this as a strong potential to benefit the school and the families in the neighborhood, and we definitely agree. There could be performance space here, covered seating, and it could even be something informal, sort of a pop-up, depending on the timeline that this develops. Next. And here's an example a rendering of what that could look like. This view is taken from sort of the parking lot area of the high school where the Ash Creek Trail comes through and continues south along this food cart pot gathering space. So this would definitely be an asset for the school kids, as well as kind of a supporting gathering space for after football games and other events at the school. We've heard that that kind of gathering for the youth and for families is really missing in this community. So there we have it. Thank you for bearing with us as we went through each of these concepts. We can open it up to discussion if we have time for it.
So could you review again the next steps on this? Because I know that these kind of plans take a while to noodleize and folks think about them, and you brought up a variety of different things. So what happens next? Oh, next steps.
Good one. Next slide, please. So just to bring back to our project timeline, following this outreach today, we will reconvene with the project advisory committee, and the next thing that we're working on here is implementation strategies and refining these concepts. So moving toward adoption of the plan, we'll look at the implementation would include some of the design guidelines and potential updates to code and different regulations as we put together the Central Towers Plan document. One more touch point that we have that we're quite excited about is the demonstration project. And so with these projects that we've reviewed today, we will be doing sort of mock-up pop-up event to start to visualize what this could look like in this community and how it would function.
And projects like this goes on for a number of years.
Yeah, so the reason we come in is because we are trying to get an accurate picture of what are the projects, how do we make these projects cohesive as a whole, and then help you identify which projects you want to move forward with first, which ones are highest priority, which ones have the most likelihood of being funded first. We're not quite at that stage, but that's what Cindy was talking about with implementation.
Great, so if anybody wants to provide additional input on this, the boards are still up, and there is still, go ahead, Fred.
There will be a survey going out shortly, and anyone can always give me a call. My phone number is 503-837-1168, and I'm happy to talk with anybody about any of their ideas. So my phone number again, 503-837-1168.
Great.
How will people find out about the survey? Will it go out through the city newsletter or?
It will,
Okay,
yep.
Great.
And how are you funded right now? You're volunteering to do this?
No, we got this project through an ODOT, it's funded through ODOT.
And then can you explain to me again why you don't think Main Street or Monmouth Street is not a good transportation hub for people of this community? I mean, why, I don't understand why you would go to East Street. I mean, it's a wide sidewalks, there's wide paths, it's right where everything is, and it seems like we're almost competing with our own downtown that we're trying to rebuild. I just don't understand why we're doing this.
So one of the things that we heard was some people, many people we heard from experience issues around safety, walking along Monmouth, especially at night. It's very dark. They don't feel that it has adequate facilities to make them feel safe enough to walk or bike. Certainly, we want to make sure that we're catering to those people and making sure we're catering to people of different means and abilities to get around in the neighborhood. I'm just curious, do you walk around on Monmouth? Oh, okay.
I walk quite a bit in this community, and I think if we need to address safety in our community, that's a whole different issue than trying to rebuild East Street. I do walk a lot. I walk all over town. I try to make sure that
You and your dog are out.
I do. And so I feel very safe walking down our streets. So it surprises me that someone comes up and says that Monmouth Street is not a safe.
Sure, yeah. No, it's just what we've been hearing. So we're messengers of what we've been hearing.
I wish we could get people from from Independence to do these things instead of bringing people from Portland to solve these problems. Because we know a lot of this.
I guess
Mr.
I'll-
Vanderveer, did you want to make a comment and then Council?
So yeah, I'll just make a couple of comments. A couple of things. So this was funded in 2021. This project grew out of the Vision 2040 plan. And the Vision 2040 plan, one of the things that the community said was, we want to consider Monmouth Street, we want to consider the area around Central Plaza. When that plan was getting adopted was before a lot of the work had gone into Central Plaza. Ross was leaving. There was just a thought, like, what is going to happen with this complex? At that time, the community said, we want this to be, this is a center of our community, and we want to embrace it as a center of our community. We want it to be a healthy place. Out of that, we applied for a grant. We got the grant in 2021. A bunch of work had happened to the complex, but some of the things that we were identifying still remain. We have 10,000 vehicles on Monmouth Street a day. The likelihood of us ever expanding the road is very minimal. We've got houses right there. If we're talking about expanding the road to go to a 5-lane cross-section, we're talking about significant front yard takes, right? The impact would be huge. Our transportation system plan that looked at that said, the best thing that you can do is improve local connectivity through the community. The part of the reason that Monmouth Street through there feels so congested is because it's the only way to go. And so what our transportation system plan identified was build out the local network anywhere you can. So that includes connecting with Madrona Street, and our transportation system plan identified Connect East Street. It's gonna help give locals another way into Waremart and into Central Plaza without having to jump onto the highway for everything. That in turn will ensure safety on Monmouth. So that's really what we're trying to do with this, in part, what we're trying to do with this plan. The amazing thing, the cool thing, is that by then making some of those transportation investments, we can go in and we can start trying to achieve some of the land use that we desire around the area. The thing about it is that same Vision 2040 plan said, hey, you know what? We actually think that this area would be good for senior housing, right? Well, we've got vacant land there that you just can't access. We put in a road, potentially. All of a sudden, we can access some of these vacant lands. And so it's a really unique thing that is trying to get done here. The best way to sort of envision it is, it's the same grant that funded along the river, right? And that grant identified a vision for the gravel site. It said what that vision was. It sort of drew out a plan, established implementing regulations, and then little by little, the city worked towards it and achieved it. This is a chance for us to do the same thing that we did down there over here in the center of these two communities, right?
Thank you, Fred. Councilor Schwartzler.
I think it's great to look at this plan. I think the Talmadge area is a great asset to the community. It's underutilized. I think it's really good that we're spending the time and the effort and being proactive about being involved in how this can look instead of just letting it sort of happen. We have an opportunity to have staff, to have input from the community, to really be thoughtful about what we want that development to look and how those connections are made. I know I've heard from lots of people, I'm an avid walker myself, that Monmouth doesn't always feel comfortable with people. And I think it is a lot of times people that have kids or, especially if they're trying to get kids out on bikes, the bike lane is not safe, even for a lot of avid cyclists. So if you try to add kids into that mix and they go onto the sidewalk, it's not that we can't do it, but it's not the best situation. And as we're looking at our overall transportation system plan, and we're going to be making improvements on like the East Street connection, it makes sense for us to look at alternatives and giving people options. It's not saying we're gonna take away from Monmouth Avenue, but this is something in addition to give people options. So I'm excited about this project. I think it's really needed. And I think especially as this community grows, we'll be thankful that we're putting the time and effort into it now and getting out ahead of it and being proactive about it.
Thank you, Councilor Court.
I don't have any problem with you being from Portland. You know, we have to go where the expertise is, and urban planners are in urban environments, they're not rural areas. So thank you for coming down here. The issue about safety on Monmouth, as Councilor Schwartzler indicated, low-income families travel with their whole family sometimes when they're going to the library or the grocery store. So you've got a parent probably trying to corral a lot of kids, and that can get really dangerous on Monmouth Street really fast. Is the Central Plaza owner, Fred, one of the stakeholders that's been involved in this project?
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure about that, because I didn't hear that. I live in this neighborhood, so I'm very interested in this. I think this is a good plan from a housing perspective, period, that we did nothing else. Because we have a housing shortage in this town, we have an affordable housing shortage in this town, big time. And I'd love to see a community spring up. Of course, you're gonna piss everybody off who's already living here, because they're gonna wanna live there too, and I'm gonna wanna sell my house and move. But I think this is a great idea, and for the food pods, the one thing I would stress is, you know, you see these communities with these wide open food pods, they're all over Portland, you see them there. But Salem, I think, had the right idea with the yard, with a covered space that's got HVAC and event space, and so it's all weather, all year long kind of activity. I would prefer to see something like that than just a parking lot that food pods drive into. I mean, I want everybody to be employed, I want everybody to have, success in their businesses, but if we're looking at event space, that's a quick way to make some event space. And, and it complements the food and the business support as well. So thank you. I think this is a great idea. I'm really excited to hear more.
So you got a little bit of input. We got a chance to hear from you. Thank you for taking the time to do this. We look forward to watching as this continues to evolve.
Very much, thank you.
Okay, councilors, we're going to move forward to Ms. West has a property acquisition authority.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, so I'll preface by saying that we have with us tonight Truman Stone. He's one of our attorneys, and he specializes in, pardon me, situations like this. So as you know, I'm an attorney, I'm a generalist. Truman is a specialist. So any specialized questions, we will have Truman answer. I'll go ahead, and I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth on this because it is an important issue, and I wanna make sure that our community members understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we're headed. So the staff report, we are asking for authorization for acquisition of interest in property for the purpose of construction and expansion of the water facilities as delineated within our water master plan. As you all know, and for the community to understand, the water master plan was adopted last year, I want to say, and a part of that water master plan included a surface water treatment facility. That surface water treatment facility is needed because of the growth within our city, and we need to put to beneficial use the water rights that the city purchased almost a decade ago, I believe now, through that water treatment facility in order to maintain water capacity for all of the new people coming in. So we're building capacity. In fact, here I have it, March 20th of 2023 is when we adopted the water master plan. So I talked a little bit about our water rights. We did purchase water rights. It's about $800,000. Those water rights, it was a very good purchase. We knew we were running out of water as we continue to grow. In order to put those water rights to beneficial use, we have to use a surface water treatment facility. We do have a well water treatment facility, two different facilities for two different purposes. The cost to that water treatment facility is about $25 million. A part of doing that is we have to locate it in a certain place. One of the places, the best place to locate it, and according to our experts, is a little bit south of town. And it is not only where we peg the water rights, but also it is the city owns land there, and we will have to acquire some property next to the city owned land. This resolution provides city management, the city manager, to move forward with that process. We've talked about the process previously, and that, I'll let Truman go into that if you really want me to go and have him go into that, but we would negotiate with the homeowners, or the property owners, not the homeowners, the property owners, and we would hopefully come to a resolution. If we don't come to a resolution where we can purchase the property for an agreed upon price, then we have to move forward with our power of eminent domain. That's what we're asking you to give the authority to do. And it's all written out in the resolution. I can go into that if you would like, but it is on the agenda. This packet is there, so for community members at home, click on that. You can look at this resolution, and it really lays it out very, very well.
Questions for the presenter? Really appreciate you having a very complete staff report in here. It explains what in more detail than what you're speaking about. If there are no questions, then this is an action item, please.
I move that the council adopt resolution number 24-1596 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Coor. Is there further discussion? I hear no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that's a yes, and that's an aye from Councilor Joe. And
Yes.
Anybody no? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Can Mr. Evander, I think he's the next person up. And while he's out of the room, Ms. West, can you, do you want to do the COPS grant?
Yes,
And then we'll have Mr. Evander at the end.
yes, Mayor, I will. Let me just grab that document. Oh, Fred's coming back.
I'm coming back, I'm sorry, I'm right here.
Thank you. We have to set a public hearing date for annexation of property.
Yep, that's right. So we did, hi there again, my name is Fred. So we did receive the application for an annexation of 6525 Corvallis Road. That is just south of, there is a map in your packet.
Yes.
So you can see that. I would recommend that a public hearing be held on that annexation on February 27th, 2024. The reason that I bring it to you so you can set the hearing is because ORS 222-120 says that you folks can elect to dispense with submitting the question of the proposed annexation to the electors of the city and fix a date for a public hearing. So that's what I'm here to ask you folks to do, to fix a date for the public hearing for this annexation. At the annexation public hearing, you would also set the zoning for the site. We would recommend that you set the zoning at mixed density residential, which is the same as the southwest portion of the community. I think that's basically.
So all we're doing here is setting the date.
All you're doing is setting the date.
Everybody clear? If someone can make a motion.
I move to dispense with submitting the question of the proposed annexation to the electors of the city and set a date of February 27, 2024 for the public hearing on AX 2024-01.
Second.
I have a motion, and who's the seconder? Seconder was Schwartzler. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Councilor Joe said yes. Any disagreement? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, Ms. West, to you on the COPS grant.
Thank you, Mayor. On this staff report, we're going to be asking that you authorize the city manager to act on behalf of the city in regard to the U.S. Department of Justice COPS grant. One of the things that you've probably noticed, because Councilor Court already noticed, is that we've updated our numbers, and it looks like we are at 2018 staffing levels instead of 2017 staffing levels in our police departments. And so that's good news, right? I mean, it's not as bad as it was before. This particular staff report, the COPS grant is from the U.S. Department of Justice. And it's for $125,000 over 3 years to add an additional police officer. You'll note in the document that that doesn't cover all of the police officer. It covers about $42,000 per year. There will be about $60,000 that we will have to cover. Staff are working that's in the general fund, you know, that's the general fund that is in shortfall. Staff is working through how to fund that. And a part of that is savings on other things. A part of that will be attrition. And a part of the way we're doing that is by not putting this into action until fiscal year 25-26. Yes, 25-26, giving us a full year to save up the money and to then leverage this $125,000 to bring in another police officer. So that is kind of our plan. Also note, if we find, as we're going through this, that we cannot get this money put aside, we can withdraw and not accept the funding until we actually take cash. So we're asking you to give me the flexibility, the ability to accept this, to move forward, to get it funded, and then if we can't do that, then to be able to walk away from this grant. But because we need officers, this is one of the only grants out there, and we need that flexibility.
Just for anybody watching, staff council members are receiving a longer written report from the city manager. Are there any questions? Seems like pretty straightforward.
I move that the council authorize the city manager to fully administer the COPS grant to include acceptance or rejection of that grant, as well as the authority to sign all documents relating to the grant on behalf of the city of Independence.
I have a motion, second by Morton. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. We need to have a bake sale for that 60K. I'm in for.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
General announcements?
I have something to say.
Sure.
I was at a meeting with regional educators, and we were talking about deficiencies in youth in reading. And I mentioned the resources that the Independence Library has available for students, and several of the people who do not live in this community said that Independence has the best library, and that they just organized it so well, and everybody there is so helpful and really helping the kids get together. And I know this because I live here, but it was great to hear that from outside of the community. And I just wanted to share with everybody that even people outside of Independence look at our library and are quite pleased with how it's going.
Thank you, Counselor.
So just very quickly, we threw a shout out to our public works and our police department, who were amazing through our recent climate disaster. I just really want to say thank you to the community. Folks stepped up, helped out their neighbors, stayed home, but got groceries to folks who needed them, and just were pretty amazing in stepping up and really demonstrating what community is. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would concur with that. My husband got stranded in a snowdrift, and it turned out there were 6 or 7 gentlemen around town who own nice big trucks that can travel most anywhere. And they were on alert through Facebook groups and any other kind of opportunity to get a hold of them. They left their phone number with people. They said during the event, those 6 or 7 guys had 450 calls. And they did it all from the goodness of their heart.
That's great. Okay, Without objection, we're adjourned. Have a pleasant evening, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
This, Cambridge Central.
Yeah, they're all.
If you have